Hello everybody. Hopefully you are having a very nice Monday evening. This is the first research video of the week. We are going to be covering Danilo, Belluardo and Madsen in this video. Hopefully everyone did great on UFC Mexico City, and I hope you do great this weekend at UFC Copenhagen. Just to let you guys know, this is an extremely busy week for betting on MMA. This weekend we've got 3 major MMA events taking place, 2 Bellator events and 1 UFC. As you can see here, we've got Bellator 227 on Friday and Bellator 228 on Saturday, as well as UFC Copenhagen. So an extremely busy week for me. That means come Thursday or Friday this week, I'm going to have to turn my attention to those 2 Bellator events. So I'm not sure how many videos I'm going to be able to put out this week. Just keeping it real with you guys. It is basically going to be impossible for me to put out breakdowns for every single UFC fight this weekend, because Bellator is just important. But I will try and cover through as many fights as I can, and who knows, depending on how quickly we get through this one, may have time to get through another video tonight, another fight tonight, another live research fight. So in today's video, the live research session is going to focus on Belluardo against Madsen. So the only real X factor that I think we should talk about here, neither guy's taking this fight on short notice. This is just a couple of X factors talking about Madsen. The first is that this is his UFC debut. He is also a popular Danish fighter that will have home advantage on his side, but he is also quite old at 35 years old. And the other notable thing to pay attention to is basically Madsen is a Danish Greco-Roman wrestler that has competed for the Danish Olympic wrestling team in several Olympic competitions. He placed one time in the Rio Olympics where he won a silver medal. He placed second and got a silver medal. So Madsen, an accomplished wrestler on paper, although to be perfectly real with you guys, I've researched his last couple fights. I've watched them myself. I can't play his most recent fights to you because they're on UFC Fight Pass. They're from Cage Warriors, and a little bit underwhelmed. I am a little bit underwhelmed. I did say this when there was so much hype about Ben Askren making his debut in the UFC, and I bet big on Jorge Masvidal in Askren's UFC debut, because what I was saying back then about Askren's Olympic wrestling pedigree also applies to every Olympic wrestler, really. If Olympic level wrestling made a huge difference and automatically meant that you were going to be a superb MMA wrestler, then the top of every MMA division, the top of every UFC division would be stacked full of Olympic level wrestlers. But it's not, for a reason. Olympic level wrestling doesn't always transition over well into MMA. Occasionally it does, and you get fighters like Daniel Cormier and Tatiana Suarez, but more often than not it doesn't. And watching Mark Madsen's recent fights in Cage Warriors, quite underwhelmed, if I'm being honest with you. Not a very good chain wrestler, not a particularly heavy top game, and it looks like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner could really cause this guy a lot of problems, because he does make a lot of positional mistakes on the ground. But we don't actually have that much footage to work from in this video, so you're kind of just going to have to take my word for it. We've got a few fights we can watch of Madsen from back in early 2018, but they don't last very long. I'll play them for you now. The fights are also against a reasonably low level of opponents. So the first fight we're going to watch is Madsen against Des Parker. This fight took place back in June 2018. And it ended quite quickly. Parker's record's 9-8, so not a super high standard of opponent. But anyway, we will jump into this now and see what we get from Madsen. And if you ask me any questions along the way, guys, I will do my best to answer them on the fights. Also, let me know if everything's sounding good. If you think this is sounding good, guys, let me know in the chat. Madsen, obviously the bald short guy in the all black shorts. Here we go. So remember, Olympic level wrestler. Probably not going to be long before we see him shoot his first takedown. But haven't really seen him use any chain wrestling. Like I say, not the heaviest top game. Swung a wild left hook there to set up the takedown entry. But shot in really high above his opponent's hips there. Threw a nice knee, big left hand, winging bombs, and actually gets taken down by his opponent. Wow, the Olympic silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling easily gets taken down, but grabs a hold of his opponent's head, uses that to get a reversal. And he is swinging hard here, swinging big bombs. Wonder if a 35-year-old grappler, I wonder how his cardio would hold up if you made him swing big, wide, looping hooks like that for a long period of time. Not throwing with an efficient technique there. That indicates that if you could keep him standing for a little while, he would gas out. Those are wide shots. But minute and a half into the fight, Parker obviously a little rattled here, backing up like a rabbit caught in the headlights here, trapped against the cage really. Hands down low though. Big size difference here. You can tell Madsen's a lot smaller. Reckless entries as well. Super reckless entries. I mean, we saw it a minute ago. If we take it back here. Watch how he just recklessly enters into his opponent's striking range. And then kind of hangs around before slipping back out. We're going to see if I've gone back too far, maybe. Oh, actually, I've gone back way too far. Screw it. Just, there was a second. Oh, it was there, actually. If you look at it here, as he comes into his opponent's range. Where is it? Any second now. Here, there's actually quite a big window of opportunity for a more technical, more reactive striker with faster hands that catch him with a bomb here. Watch as he comes in. There, very slow. Very poor head movement, showing the Madsen is there to be hit. And as we can see here, as he's coming forward on this takedown entry, chin high and exposed, there to be hit. Drags his opponent to the ground, but again, showing a little bit about what I mentioned from his Cage Warriors fight. Doesn't really have a heavy top game. His opponent easily able to pop back up to his feet, but that Olympic level wrestling means he's got some very nice suplexes in the locker, slamming Parker on his head. But he, even now, you can see as he's got top position here, as you can see here, let's go of control of his opponent's body. And here he's giving his opponent a lot of space. There's a lot of space for his opponent to explode out here. Hasn't got control of his body. Loads of space here. Loads of space. So this is just a little bit what I was talking about, where Madsen doesn't have the strongest top game. Explosive takedowns. But exerting a lot of energy without actually achieving a lot. There you can see he's kind of holding on to his opponent's hands when what he should be trying to do is establish a dominant position by stepping over into half guard. And look at how much energy he would have exerted on that suplex just to let his opponent stand back up. I mean, Parker didn't really achieve anything. Madsen didn't really achieve anything there. He got, a decent takedown, didn't do any damage. Didn't really score too many points. I'm sure the suplex got a big reaction from the crowd, but exerted tons of energy only to let his opponent stand back up. Doesn't make much sense, especially when there are signs that he's got quite bad striking defense. So if you're letting your opponent back up and they're dangerous standing, you risk putting the fight back in a range where they can hit you and hurt you. Now he's got another takedown into side control. This is much better. And again, look at all this space. Loads of space he's giving his opponent. Doesn't really have anything here. Doesn't have half guard. Doesn't have control of his opponent's body. He's not staying heavy from top position. Most fighters would be able to use this space to scramble back to their feet quickly. So even though Madsen, obviously a strong offensive wrestler, strong Greco-Roman wrestler, Not a very heavy top game at all. Certainly not the type of top game you'd be worried about. Minute left to go in the first round though. Very heavy ground and pound. Landing some absolute bombs from this position. Certainly wouldn't want this guy on top of you. But one of the reasons why he's able to generate so much power is because he doesn't have control of his opponent's body. He doesn't have to worry about position. His opponent's just lying there and letting him land bombs. And again, he's letting back up, which makes absolutely no sense. And there it lands a big KO. So clearly hits very hard, but we got some issues there. Not a very heavy top game. Not very good fight IQ either. Exerts tons of energy to get fights to the ground, only to do absolutely nothing with the top control. And of course, he did do a bit with the top control there because he managed to land some big ground and pound. But he also gave his opponent a lot of space to work their way back to their feet. If his opponent would have shown a bit more urgency there, he could have gotten back up quite easily. So Madsen is a big favourite this weekend. If we look at the odds, currently around about a 1.19 favourite, which is minus 526 for an implied probability of 84%. So to gain any value on Madsen this weekend, you've got to cap him at about 90%. So I'm not really interested in Madsen. I am much more interested in Belluardo, who is the fighter we're going to be watching next, because his average odds are around about 5.0, which is plus 400 for an implied probability of 20%. So to get any value here, you've only got to give him a 25% or better chance of winning. Personally, I'd like 30%. I'd like a bit more of a margin on a high-risk bet like this. But yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen some red flags with Madsen. He actually looked a lot better there than he did in Cage Warriors. In Cage Warriors, he was nowhere near as aggressive. Didn't look like he hit anywhere near as hard as that. But let's watch this second fight for him now against Freishush from back in January of 2018. And what a difficult pro debut this would have been for Freishush. It wasn't his pro debut. It would have been his second fight, but he's 1-0 coming into this fight. Let us take a look at him, what he brings to the table. Looks like he might be about to jump a guillotine. That looks deep. Very, very nice. That is under the chin. Tight squeeze. Wow, vicious. He's a motherfucking savage. Holy shit. He put that guy out in seconds and slammed him to the ground. Well, don't really get to learn anything from that fight apart from the fact that you do not want to let Madsen get his arms around your neck. What an absolute savage. Okay, interesting. Right. Obviously, you didn't get to learn a lot about Madsen there because the fights were pretty short, but I have watched all of these fights here. From Cage Warriors. Actually, let me see if they're available online. I think they're only on Fight Pass. We will take a look. Matthew Bonner. Let's see if we can get this. No, it's not available. It is on Fight Pass, so if you guys want to watch it. So, next up, let's watch Danilo Belluardo. So he has had one fight in the UFC against Joel Alvarez, although I believe he took this fight on short notice. Let's just confirm. He didn't. It was actually a full camp. But he didn't look great. Certainly wouldn't blow your hair back. Alvarez gave up takedowns very easily. Allowed Belluardo to have a lot of top control. And then, Alvarez basically reversed him in the second round and finished him with ground and pound. Really didn't get to learn that much about Belluardo at all, but it was his UFC debut, so can't be too harsh on him. Let's jump in and see how he looked before the UFC in his fight against Danilson Neves d'Oliveira. Let's just call him Danilson. That will make it a lot easier. Neves even easier again. This was in March of this year, so 6 months ago. So the Belluardo we're likely to see in this fight, probably not too dissimilar from the Belluardo we are going to see on Saturday night. Very, very nice double leg takedown there. Beautiful. Used the trip technique to complete the takedown. Very, very nice offensive wrestling from Belluardo. This is very early in the first round as well. Only 30 seconds in. And, you know, ideally we'd like to see his takedown defense instead of his offensive wrestling. Doubt he will be trying to take Madsen to the ground, but you never know. In on a double leg again. The position that Khabib loves, where he ties his opponent's hips up, or legs up, and gains control of their body around the hips. Would also be nice to see a little bit of Belluardo striking. Belluardo transitions to a single leg, very nice. Completes the takedown into side control. But we're not really that interested in his grappling here, right? I mean, he came up with a grappling heavy game plan against Joel Alvarez as well. But we're more interested in his takedown defense and striking, so I'm hoping we're going to get to see a bit of that in this fight. Certainly doesn't have the heaviest top game either. Neves quite easily able to work his way back to his feet on the last couple of occasions he's been taken down now. Belluardo dragging him to the ground again. Looking to take his back. Very nice. Belluardo's got decent transitions here. Neves is making life difficult for him, but he's managing to maintain control of the body, which is nice. Neves isn't really showing much urgency in trying to break control of the body, but he is continually popping back up to his feet, and Belluardo is doing a really good job of flowing with him and not letting him off the hook. Another deep double leg takedown, but it is quite clear that Neves has absolutely no takedown defense. He is making life easy for Belluardo. He's jumped on a guillotine here, but doesn't really have control of Belluardo's body. These legs are too low below Belluardo's hips. So Belluardo just going to be able to slip his head out any second now. Neves is just holding on here. He's going to have to let go of that head pretty soon. Any second now. Let's skip ahead so we don't need to see him holding on to this head. There you go. Belluardo's got his head out now. And Neves popping back up. Also, let's like the video supporting Venator FC, the premier MMA promotion in Italy. And Belluardo really wants this back. He wants to take Neves' back. But, again, good in the transitions. Couldn't get the back, so switched to a double leg takedown. In deep on Neves' hips here. Still has control of the body. Wait, this doesn't help us though, guys. Let's skip ahead. See if we can see a bit of the striking or takedown defense of Belluardo. There's no point in wasting time watching this guy try and take his opponent down against the cage, because that, you know, it's not going to happen. That's not his route to victory here. We can't assume Belluardo can beat an Olympic silver medalist with grappling and wrestling. So we need to see a bit of Belluardo striking and a bit of his takedown defense to assess what probability he's got of beating Madsen, and if he has a better than 20% chance of winning. So he's fighting. He's out in the southpaw stance here. He actually immediately, as soon as I said he came out in the southpaw stance, he switched to orthodox. Shot a very nice deep double leg takedown again there, but Neves showed strong hips on that occasion and was able to get the nice deep underhook in on the right side. We're getting to see a little bit of Belluardo's takedown defense here. Not good at all. He thought about when Neves went in on a single leg there. Belluardo thought about hitting a switch, and ended up getting taken down as a result of it. He's now in on another deep double leg takedown, but a little bit of a red flag there. How easily he went down after his opponent got in on that single leg. So we're not interested in the grappling. We want to see takedown defense, and we want to see striking. So how has Belluardo ended up on the bottom here? Okay, we got Neves jumping on a guillotine again. Dangerous for Belluardo to put his head into these positions though, because obviously we've just seen what type of squeeze Madsen has. And Neves going to use this to roll into top position. Very nice. Belluardo's actually mounted at the moment with 2 minutes left to go in the second round, which is a terrible place to be in. Neves should probably just give this up and take mount. He does. Must have heard my advice. And Neves in a much safer position now. Obviously, there's more reversals available to your opponent when you're in mount, but he took half guard, and now Belluardo's been able to recover guard from there. Get to see a little bit of Belluardo's bottom game here. Giving up his back. Isn't, again, not showing it. Takedown defense, not looking good, boys. Obviously, Neves wasn't able to establish that dominant position, but did drag him to the ground quite easily. Had control of his body here and just literally dragged him to the ground. So not good. All kinds of bad. All kinds of not good stuff is going on here. And into the third round now. Neves shooting a takedown attempt. Nice knees there from Neves. So Neves has got an underhook here on the left side, and I mean, Belluardo's choosing to just use his left arm to prevent Neves from connecting his hands together and gaining control of his body, but not really showing any urgency to get his own underhook in play here and reverse position or gain control of Neves' body. Neves actually has got his hands connected here. You can see just as Belluardo gets his back off the cage for a split second, you see it here. His hands are connected together. I didn't think he did. So that's even more concerning for Belluardo, because he's not showing any urgency here to break Neves' grip. He's not even trying to fight for underhooks. Look at that. Very, very poor. So here, it is quite clear that Neves has got full control of his body, and Belluardo is just completely lackadaisical, showing no urgency here at all. Isn't even bothering to create a strong base against the cage. Which means at any point in time, Neves could change levels or power into a takedown, and Belluardo's doing absolutely nothing to prepare for it. He could be taken down easily from this position, so he's just showing really poor grappling awareness here. Notice how close his legs are together. He's now finally trying to get an underhook on the left side, but all kinds of bad this from Belluardo, just accepting being in this position, and any half decent wrestler would be able to put this guy down easily with how casual he is looking in this position. Very, very poor indeed. And look, there it is, guys. There it is. Easily puts Belluardo on the ground. What did I say a few seconds ago? I promise you I haven't seen this fight, guys. But when you've got a fighter with their hands connected around your body, and the fighter whose body is controlled, they're not fighting for underhooks. They haven't got a strong base against the cage. They can easily be taken down and caught off balance, and that is exactly what Neves did. Belluardo looks like he's popped back up straight away, but again, allowing Neves to keep control of his body, very, very poor, and he gets dragged down again. I've got no interest in betting this fight, boys. Let's leave it there. I'm not watching another one. I don't care what Belluardo's striking's like. There's no way you could... I mean, that fight took place 6 months ago. There's no way you can bet on a fighter that is that casual in that position. Very, very, very poor grappling positional awareness, which means his takedown defense is going to be absolute garbage. From my perspective, Madsen should win based on what we've seen. Hits very hard, home advantage. It is his UFC debut, but he's an Olympic level silver medalist, and Belluardo just has no takedown defense, is quite obvious. So yeah, I am going to pass on this fight, guys. I'm not betting Madsen as a huge favourite. Absolutely no way I'm betting this guy with an implied probability of 84%. Not in his UFC debut. Not even worth putting in a parlay or an accumulator. But also, I'm not betting on a guy with no takedown defense against an Olympic wrestler. So that is the way it goes, boys. That is the way it goes. That is going to be it for this research video. Let me know if you have any questions in the live chat, and I will do my best to answer them. Keep the questions about this fight though, guys. Any other fights, we will be covering throughout the week. This is literally one of the first fights I've researched on this card, so I won't be able to answer any of your questions on any of the other fights on this card because I haven't got to them yet. Let's see if there's any questions. Looks like that's it, boys. So I might be back in a little while to cover another fight. Let me know in the comments below what fight you'd like me to cover in a live research video next. But that is it for this video, guys. No betting opportunities here. There's no way I would bet either of these guys at these odds, but I will keep plugging away. Take care, guys. Have a great Monday. Please remember to like the video, and I will be back very, very